Hi, my name is Ken McCarthy, and I'm the founder of the Real Food Channel. And I don't think you've ever seen me before because I don't think I've ever been on video on this channel before. Um, didn't really think this day would ever come to pass. I just wanted to put some useful information out. But here I am, and I want to talk with you about the future of real food. When we originally started this project, the idea was to gather and share information about healthy food with people. And what I've learned can really be summed up pretty simply. If traditional people ate it, it's probably good. If it's made by corporate America, it's probably poison. I mean, it's pretty simple. The healthiest place to get your food in a supermarket is the produce department, and do everything you can to get food from good farmers who have integrity, and that's pretty much it on the healthy eating front. However, we still will put out content about specific risks and specific dangers. Thing that I've been obsessed with lately the last couple of years is industrial seed oils. This is the root of much evil, and we should all be sharing this information with our friends and neighbors, that you really don't want corn syrup or cottonseed oil or any of those other literal poisons in your food. It could be the most defining factor for why Americans are falling apart health-wise. But in any event, we obviously got diverted by the great COVID con. Initially, I didn't really want to have to spend every waking hour of my life studying and researching it, but it appeared that precious few other people were willing to do it, especially back in March and April of 2020 when it really mattered. I thought this information was going to be valuable and important for the real food audience, and we basically have been shifting a lot of our content from what we call brass check to real food. So that's going to stop as of now. And we're going to do all our COVID reporting starting now on brass check. So if you're interested in following this story and following our work in it, that's the place to go. We're going to devote real food to health, back to health. Why? I hate to say it, guys, but we've lost. I mean, we just got to face it. The bad guys won. Yes, we are making some small gains, but I think it's really delusional to think that the bad guys haven't won. They've wanted a new world order for a long time. They renamed it the new normal, and they use hysteria that they generated to basically terrorize the population into willingly agreeing to pretty much everything they want to do. They want the public to do. It's a sad fact of life, and we'll keep fighting, we'll keep reporting, we'll keep giving you the news. But now we have to change our focus on what people can do to preserve themselves in these frankly terrible times. And that area, again, it always boils down to education. Eating healthfully is more important now more than ever. Teaching your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews the value of real, fresh food over the garbage that is in our supermarkets. I mean, the average U.S. supermarket is a literal horror show. And some of us have farmers markets, but they're sporadic and small. But when you go to societies where people are healthier than us, you'll see big farmer markets. This is a daily occurrence, and that's really where people get their food from. They don't get them from bottles or boxes or freeze-dried or any of that stuff. They get freshly grown produce, and they prepare it at home. And that is the secret to health. So we've got a lot of material about that on the Real Food Channel, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. And we will continue to put out stuff about that. We'll also continue to put out stuff about, again, these seemingly innocuous poisons that are in the standard American diet and the Japanese diet and the Canadian diet and the European diet. And unfortunately now those poisonous foods are becoming popular in the developing world too. Unfortunately, the snack industry, which really should be called the poison food industry, is now making great strides all over the developing world, and that's tragic. But we personally don't have to go there. And I mean, really, every bit of it's bad. I mean, potato chips, pretzels, cookies. I hate to tell you, it's all really, really bad. And if you want a dramatic increase in your health, just stop eating that stuff. And you'll see the gains almost immediately, and they accumulate over time. But what we're going to focus on in the coming days, weeks, months, maybe even years, I don't know how long it's going to run, but we're going to work it to the end, is we're going to focus on the most important nutrient. The one nutrient, you know how there's all these ads, the one nutrient you've got to have, the one nutrient if you're deficient in, you'll die. Therefore, you have to give us $50 a month for our bottle of stuff. Everybody's playing the same game, whether it's pharmaceutical people or supplement people. But in any event, there is a one most important nutrient, and it's undeniable and indisputable. And you absolutely must have this nutrient. And this nutrient is part of every single biochemical reaction in your body. And your health is determined literally, linearly, by how much of this nutrient you have and how well distributed it is in your body. And here's the good news. You don't have to pay for it. It's absolutely free. It's everywhere. It's called oxygen. And I know this sounds way too simple to be important, but like fish who don't realize they're swimming in water, we tend to not realize how important oxygen and our breathing is. Our breathing, just our breathing. Our breathing can be defined as our ability to use oxygen efficiently and effectively. Now, this is not news to the profound of the world. The ancient Indians came up with the idea of prana, right? Breath, life force. The ancient Chinese came up with the idea of qi, breath, life force. The ancient Greeks came up with the idea of pneuma, breath, life force. There is yoga, there is Tai Chi, there is Qigong. There's all kinds of things that people do to improve their breath. There's also the whole panoply of things called breath work going on around the world. And all this stuff is good and it's positive. And I've been studying it since 1976, when I took my first Tai Chi lesson when I was 16 years old. And I've done it all. I've done the yoga. I've done all kinds of yoga, all kinds of Tai Chi, internal martial arts, Qigong, studied neurology. I mean, you name it, I've done it. And I found somebody who has done the absolute most remarkable work. No, I've looked into this stuff a lot. I've, conferred with great masters, men and women that have devoted decades and decades of their life to nothing but studying the breath. And they're all impressive, and I've learned a tremendous amount from them. But this one person has put it together like no one else. She's done a multi-decade interdisciplinary study of breath and how it affects every single system in the body at every single stage in development, from in the womb to, your last days. Our science has degenerated tremendously in the last, who knows, when it started, but certainly since the 90s, we'll say, when everything's become siloed. You can study the lungs, or you can study the pancreas, or you can study the heart, or you can study various diseases, but you can't look at everything all together and be an employed scientist. You have to get your grants, you have to be a micro-specialist. And micro-specialization is kind of interesting, but ultimately it's not very useful. We are not parts, we are an integrated whole, and we need to see how that whole all works together. And that does not happen in science anymore. But this lady slipped under the what do they call it? Under the wire before science got shut down. And she did a very detailed interdisciplinary study, taking all the studies done on breathing in every possible ramification, all the different ailments where breathing is, where respiratory factors come into play. prenatal, infancy, childhood, adolescence, all the diseases. She brought it all together, and she was motivated by the strongest force in the universe, which is a mother trying to help her child. Her son was born with severe cerebral palsy, and he was blind, profoundly deaf, couldn't walk, and was not expected to ever be able to walk. And the authorities said the best thing for her to do was just to hand him over, and they would take care of everything. And she decided, no, I'm going to take care of everything. And she studied, and she studied, and she studied, and she studied. And her son now, Darren, has a little trouble with speaking because of some physical limitations, but he's completely conversant. He paints beautiful paintings. He runs half marathons. He sings. He's got a full life, and he's now, I believe, in his 30s. And there's a full life ahead of him. This should not have happened. This should not have been possible. The experts, the people that get their paychecks, and there's thousands of them treating cerebral palsy, would have told you this could not have happened. So here's the thing. It's one thing to have, to do a survey of the literature. It's one thing to have a tremendous amount of book knowledge. Those are very good. It's another thing to take an impossible situation and remedy it. And our expert, who will be meeting tomorrow, not only has helped her son, she's helped hundreds and hundreds of children with the severest of all problems. And what she has discovered along the way is how all health problems, all of them, I don't care what you've got, are made better by improved breathing. Not just taking yoga, not just taking a few deep breaths, but a systematic program of improving and developing your breathing apparatus. And again, with all due respect to the ancients and Pneuma and Prana and Chi and all that, and everybody that I've ever studied with, I don't know anybody that took this knowledge into the crucible of really serious challenges like cerebral palsy and showed the potential of the breath and what it means when you rehabilitate and develop and remedy a disordered breathing system. We've all got this problem because we're human beings. We're all dependent on oxygen. We're all dependent, and our ability to take in and use oxygen is entirely dependent on the status of our breathing mechanism. And we know next to nothing, we're taught next to nothing about our breathing mechanism and how to make it function, how to help it, not make it, how to help it function better. And again, I guarantee there are people that have studied yoga for decades, that have done Tai Chi for decades, that have done breath work for decades. I guarantee there are masters of these things that don't fully appreciate the whole scope of the breath and what it means to the body and how to bring the breath back to our body. Because we have injuries, we have illnesses, we have all kinds of stuff happens to us. It's not bad habits. It's not like you can just change your habits. You have to do specific things, and those things will make have a transformative effect. Again, not theory. When you take somebody that cannot sit up, cannot articulate a word, and that person's now on his feet running and speaking and painting and living a full life against all odds with not drugs, not surgery, not some great medical intervention by the great, MIT, gene splicers, but by God-given breath, you're onto something. So we're going to launch this tomorrow. I hope you'll be in on it. I hope you'll stick with it. Give it time. Sometimes the most obvious things are the most difficult to grasp the importance of. One of my favorite phrases has always been the elusive obvious. And this is going to be revolutionary stuff, and I'm hoping you'll learn it, and I'm hoping you'll help spread the word. We're in a dark time right now. These are the dark ages. I kind of thought we were in the dark ages before COVID, with COVID-Con, but now, beyond any shadow of a doubt, we are living through the Dark Ages. And during the Dark Ages, there were little monasteries here and there where monks continued to preserve scholarship and learning, which is, of course, what humanity is all about. And that's what we're going to have to become. We're going to have to be those people preserving the tools of life in the face of this onslaught that we're undergoing. And the good news is, I don't think they can take the air away from us. They're going to try to take everything else away from us. They're not going to succeed in taking the air away from us. And it's up to us to understand how to use what we were given as effectively as possible. And our guest, starting tomorrow, is going to talk about this, and we're going to learn it together, and we're going to figure it out, and it's going to be really worthwhile. And I wanted to encourage you again to tell other people about this. This is, I'm 62. I don't know everything, but I have been around and I have studied a lot. And this is what I'm putting my time and energy into right now. Lately I think, well, what if this life ends? What would I have liked to leave behind? Well, I've done a lot of productive things, but I'd like to make sure this particular body of knowledge gets preserved and disseminated around the world. So that's what I'm going to put my emphasis on for the coming weeks, coming days for sure, possibly weeks on this channel. And who knows, maybe this channel will always be about, because it is profound, it is deep, it is important, and we've got to learn it, and we've got to preserve it, and we've got to spread it. So that is the news from Real Food. And tune in tomorrow for the beginning of the beginning. It's going to be, you'll see when we get into the subject, you will have no idea how much is involved in breathing. And it's not complicated. It's not like you have to get a PhD to understand it. It's more a sense of appreciating all the ramifications of it, as a way of motivating yourself to devote some time to it. And I guarantee if you devote some time to this subject, it will be transformative on many levels, your health, physical and mental and emotional, because a lot of the anxiety that people are feeling in this world is subtle oxygen deprivation, and you can help it tremendously by working with your breathing and your breath. But it's not just anxiety, as she's demonstrated with her son. You can take the most difficult, supposedly impossible situations, health situations, and cerebral palsy is right up there with the worst, most challenging condition anybody can ever face. And she has taken this knowledge and made a massive difference just with this God-given breath that we're all given. So see you tomorrow. Tune in. Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. And thanks for joining us. All right. Bye-bye.